सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Mantra number 4 in this third Mundaka first Valli we did Prano hyesha sarva bhutair vibhati vijanan vidwan bhavate nativadi atma krida atmarati kriyavan esha brahma vidam varishtaha. This Atma, the most subtle, prano hyesha sarva bhutair vibhati. This Atma itself enlivens the entire pranic shakti of this particular equipment, and upon enlivening this equipment, it being the prana of the prana, the very cause of the manifested reality, the very cause of the plurality, that most subtle self enlivening this equipment enlivens all equipments, bhutaihi vibhati. Each one of the equipments are brought to life, each one of the jiva rashis are brought to life, and upon each equipment coming to reverberate in this pure awareness consciousness, it is the same consciousness which is capable of even knowing the pluralistic world. So knowing at the individual level, knowing at the duality level, that esha pranaihi yaha sarvabhutai vibhati vijanan vidvan nativati. That wise person, vidvan, the one who has known the self as pratyagatma, the one who has known the self as the innermost self, and this innermost self is the self of all, having known that way that I am this absolute, and that absolute alone is the self of everything, knowing that there is nothing other than this self alone appears as the world of name and forms, then who am I talking with in this world? Na ativadi bhavet. That person doesn't get intermingled in the dualistic transactional reality bondage created by speech, by excessive speech, by throwing some ideas, speech meaning some type of adhyas, some type of arop done on the world of name and forms. All that, the person becomes silent, knowing that the self is the self within and the same self is without. So who am I actually discussing? So does not talk much. And what does this person do? Atma kridaha, the person sports within. Atmaratihi, sports within. Atma kridaha, when the objective reality exists outside, he sees that the outside reality is none other than this Atma itself. So the krida is with respect to the external reality, and rati is with respect to the sporting within. That outside the play is understood as the play of consciousness. Inside the world of vasanas, the world of desires, thoughts and emotions, that also does not affect this person. He sports and the individuality revels in the absolute. It basks in that, and that is Atma Kriya, Atma Rati Kriya Van Bhavati. Atma Krida Eva Kriya, Atma Rati Eva Kriya, all those things. Na Esha Brahma Vidam, Esha Brahma Vidam Varishtam. The na goes with previous one. Na Atma, that person does not engage in any kriya. This kriya meaning activity. Now this activity also has to be understood that it is not inactivity which is talked about over here, that na kriyavan bhavet. What does that na kriyavan bhavet? That person, what is talked about over here is that this person doesn't engage in the doership and the enjoyership. In that way, this person sports in the self, delights in the self, and doing acts enjoined by the abidance in the self itself. And if at all he engages in karma, it is a divine inspiration to act in this world. In fact, the action of this person becomes most perfect, and in this way this person becomes the best among the knowers of truth, Varishthaha, the best among the knowers of Brahmavidam, the knower of Brahman. And the knower of the Brahman is further elaborated in mantra number 5. We will continue. Satyena labhyastapasa hyesha atma samyak jnanena brahmacharyena nityam antah sharire jyotirmayo hi shubhraha yam pashyanti yataya kshina doshaha. So Shankaracharya ji gives a little one-line introduction to this mantra. Adhuna satyadini bhikshoho samyak jnana sahakarini sadhanani vidhiyante vinivrutti pradhanani. Shankaracharya ji says that now Satya Adini, Satya, etc. So all the different values talked about for Bhikshoho, for the ones who are desirous of attaining this higher self. Samyak Jnana Sahakarini, he's only going to talk about these values which becomes the cause of the preparation of the equipment for absolute knowledge, for the knowledge to take place. Samyak Jnana, for the abidance in this knowledge. This Sahakarini, Sadhanani, all the spiritual practices, Vidhiyante, Nivrutta Pradhanani. One type of activity is Pravrutti. Pravrutti is engaging more and more and more in this world, and the engaging in this world makes this person outward going. So the outward going personality becomes more and more agitated. Again, this is addressed to a Upanishadic student who has lived the life, who has understood, whose senses have become subdued, and now the person wants to learn. So for this qualified student, all the sadhanas required to quieten the mind is called Nivrutta Pradhanani, where the mind will be disengaged from this pluralistic world. Disengagement of this mind from this world is called this Nivrutta Pradhanani. Primarily activities, sadhan, all the spiritual practices which make the mind silent are going to talk about. And what are they? Satyena. Satyena is the first value which is talked about. Satyena anruta tyagena mrusha vadana tyagena. Shankaracharya ji says, the one who gives up false statements, the one whose speech does not abide in untruth. Anruta tyagena, mrusha vadana tyagena. The person who gives up false uttering. This is very important, that whatever we speak, we should speak little, but whatever little we speak, that little should be about that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, absolute. So anything other than that we should give up, and especially if we know that the statement which is being uttered is not true, knowing that it is not true, if we utter it, it creates a split in the subconscious. It destroys our subconscious. That soul within, knowing that it is doing something which is not correct, actually hurts that person more than what is intended by the Anruta Vachana. In this way, the Satyam becomes very, very true, very, very important. The reason is because the mind and the intellect have to come together. And for the mind and the intellect to come together, this Satyam becomes the glue which binds it. Anruta Vachana creates a divorce between the mind and the intellect. Intellect knows it is false, mind yet utters it, and that will create a rift between the two. So, Satyena Labhyas tapasa hyesha atma, and then this atma, labhyah, it is attained through Satyam. By the truth, the mind and the intellect become one, also by tapas. Tapas over here, kimcha tapasa hi indriya mana ekagryaha manasascha indriyanam cha ekagryam paramam tapaha. Over here Shankaracharya ji says the greatest tapas is the single pointedness of the senses. That is the tapas. Not standing in water and doing the mantra japa and all those things. Even our great Swami Shivanandaji in Rishikesh, he did all those things. And he himself told his own disciples, don't do all those things. He said, I did it, but if we follow this, we can attain this. Tapas is sit quietly, take your mind and intellect to this ekagrata, surrendering at the feet of the Lord. So, saguna upasana, saguna dhyan you do. It may be one mantra, it may be one dhyana shloka, it is more than enough. But mind should be taken to it, Satyam binds it, and this tapas takes it on a higher acme of oneness, where the whole chitta is poured at the feet of Bhagavan, and that is called Indriyanam Mana Ekagrayata. This oneness of all the senses are parked in their own respective locus, and the mind is taken over there. Manasashindriyanam chi ekagrayam paramam tapa. This is in Mahabharat Shanti Parva. Iti smaranat tad anukula atma darshana tad anukulam atma darshana abhimukhi bhavat paramam sadhanam tapaha. Also, whatever is conducive for Atma Darshan, holding on to that is the Parama Tapas. The reason is because there are ample of things over here that take our mind's attention away. So, whatever is righteous, whatever keeps our mind's attention over to Atma, we have to keep, and whatever takes our mind's attention away from Atma, we should give that up. Tapaha na itaraha. Now he is going to talk about what is tapas. Na itaraha chandrayanadi. And this tapas, what he talked about is taking this mind, keeping it on keeping it focused on all things which take us towards Atma, and taking the mind's attention away from the things which take the mind's attention away from Atma. So going away from that is also tapas, and he says not the other tapas like Chandrayanadi Vrat, that one may do all the types of fasting. There is a very famous Chandrayana Vrat talked about in our Shastra, that tomorrow is going to be full moon, so one whole roti will be eaten. After that will be the pratipad, so 1/16 of the roti will be removed, and like that we keep on reducing that roti all the way up to Amavasya, no food. And then again we start eating little. So we divide that whole plate into the 16 parts, and in that way this is called Chandrayana Vrat. These are different types of vratas talked about. Esha Atma Labhyah iti Anushangah Sarvatra. This is how Atma is to be attained. Samyak Jnanena Yatha Bhuta Atma Darshanena, as it is talked about in Mundaka Upanishad up to now. In that way, Samyak Jnanena, proper thought process, and taking the mind over there, yattad adreshyam, agrahyam, agotram, avarnam, achakshushrotram, tadapanipadam, nityam, vibhum, sarvagatam, susukshma, paripashyanti dhiraha. That mantra that we saw in the first Mundaka, first Valli, that samyak jnanena, that proper thought about what is Atma, not my understanding of Atma, what is talked about in the Shastra. Yatha bhut is very important, as talked about in the Shastra. Atma darshanena, brahmacharyena, maithuna, asamacharena, the indulging in all types of sexual acts and all those things, anything which makes the mind bahirmukhi for that person who wants to rise at the level of higher consciousness. The energy needs to be conserved, and the energy needs to be pushed into the higher centers of Prakriti and not the lower centers of Prakriti. The Maithuna Kriya creates more and more duality. It is for furthering the cause of creation, and this, when somebody abstains from this kriya, like the whole brahmacharya vratam for the first 24 years of life, what happens is nishtha can be attained in Atma very quickly, because ojas grows. Ojas is the spiritual vigor. The spiritual vigor allows this person to cross this huge entanglement of vasanas, and it pushes the antakarana onto the other side. In this way, brahmacharya vratam is very important. Nityam sarvada, nityam satyena, nityam tapasa, nityam samyak jnanena, nityam brahmacharyena, nitya sarvatra nitya shabdaha Antardipika Nyayena Anushanga. So Shankaracharya ji is joining this Nitya. What is this Nitya? He said always. Always what? Always speaking truth, Satyena. Nityam Tapasa, always engaging in this tapas of the single pointedness of the senses, mind. Nityam Samyak Jnanena, ever abiding in this proper understanding of the self and the sadhan required, all the spiritual practices required to go higher and higher. Iti nitya shabdena antardipika nyay. This is a very technical sutra of the Nyaya Shastra. If the lamp is placed at the threshold between two rooms, if this is the threshold, then this lamp lights this hall as well as this hall, and that is called Antardipika Nyaya. It lights the inside as well as the outside. So that which is put on the threshold does that. In the same way, the Nitya Shabda is the one which goes with both the Satyam, the Tapas. In this way, Nitya Shabda is the Antardipika Nyaya. Utilizing that, it goes with all that. It is just, that means he is using Nyaya, Tarka, Vaisheshika, all philosophies we talked about last Saturday. He has studied and he is applying each one of them over here. Bhakshati cha na esha jihmam anrutam na mayaya cha, and not the falsehood over here. The absolute truth is attained by truth alone. Truth alone can take us to truth. Ko asau atma ya etaihi sadhanaihi labhyate iti uchyate. What types of spiritual practices and where and how is this Atma known? Anta sharire, antar madhye. Where is the Atma known? It is known within. Anta sharire, within. Then antar madhye, it is known within. Where it is known, how it is known, how does it happen? Antar madhye sharirasya pundalika akasha. It is within the space of the heart, and in the space of the heart it is jyotirmayaha rukmavarnaha. Now please don't think there is a golden lamp which is burning inside. The Shastra is using such language to show us that the luminous quality of the light lights up this room. When we turn on the switch, the whole room is lit up. In the same way, the presence of consciousness lights up the equipment, and our ability to know comes from it, and that is why it is called Jyotirmaya. Mayat Pratyaya, filled with Jyoti, not the local Jyoti lamp that we are talking about. It is the lamp of knowledge over here. Gnyan is what is talked about, because the light over here is I know glass, I know this is a phone, I know this is a table. So when I say I know, what is that? It is a lamp of awareness. That is what is meant over. Shubhraha, Shuddha, it is unsullied. If I say that there is a lamp, then there is another lamp to know the lamp. When I switch on this light, this tube light is dependent upon electricity. So there is a dependence. Provided that electricity is running in the wire, the lamp will come on. So there is a dependence of the bulb over here. So is there a dependence of anything else for this lamp of consciousness? No. It is self-effulgent. It is ever pure. It is not dependent upon anything. That Atma is self-luminous. It is immaculately pure. Nothing touches it. It alone is. And it alone is. And the way the Atma is complete. It is Purna. It is not deficient in anything, and that is why it is also Shuddha. So, Yam Atmanam Pashyati Yam Atmanam. Where is this Atma known? It is known within. It is known within as I. It is always flickering as I am, and it is known. It is known within. Yatayaha, yatanashilaha, sanyasinaha. Shankaracharya ji keeps on saying, sanyasinaha, the ones who have made priorities and renounced everything for the sake of this Atma. That is what he means by sannyasi. And in Satyuga and all those days, sannyas was a path which was taken by all. So once the ashram is over, people moved on, and people had to take this. Sarva karma sannyas was there. But to take that sannyas, there was a preparation. So that preparation is the renunciation. Yesterday what we saw, different levels of vairagya. That vairagya itself is called sannyas. That is yatanashilaha, the ones who have put practice. It's not that one day we wake up and will be sannyasis. No. Yatanashila. Every day this person has practiced not this, not this, not this. They can be wearing jeans and t-shirt and be sannyasi on the inside. It is the inside sannyas what is talked about over here as very well having renounced what is anatma. Kshina doshaha, kshina krodhadi chittamalaha. The mind has to become subdued. The anger, pride, jealousy, all those things, it makes the mind vigilant. So this mind has to become quiet, and all these things are called impurities of the mind that has to be given up. Sa Atma nityam satyadi sadhanaihi sannyasibihi labhyate. This Atma is nityam, ever available for people who ever abide in steadfastness of giving up the lower and rising. Na kadachit kaihi satyadibihi labhyate. Not once in a while I follow satyam. No, it has to be always followed. Kadachit, if I follow, once in a while. Once in a while, Shankaracharya ji says, no, it has to be satyadi sadhana stutyartha ayam arthavadaha. Again, Shankaracharya ji says, next mantra talks about the same satya in another way. Continuing, mantra number 6. Satyameva jayati nanrutam. Satyena pantha vitato devayanaha. Yenakramanti rushayo hyapta kamaha. Yatra tat satyasya paramam nidhanam. So the very famous statement that we see on the Indian currency, Satyameva Jayate, it actually comes from this Mundaka Upanishad. Over here, Shankaracharya ji says, Satyameva, Satyavan eva jayati nanrutam, na anrutavadityarthaha nahi satya anrutayoho kevalayoho. Over there, in the currency, it is said Satyameva jayate. Actually, grammatically, Satyameva jayati. So this is where that statement comes from, that Satyameva jayati na anrutam. So Over here in the book Satyameva Jayate is there. In Shankara Bhashya, Satyameva Jayati is talked about. So Satyameva Jayate Nanrutam. What is victorious is truth, but what is left out on the coins, what is left out on the currency is na anrutam. The most important part is left out. And that is why we have to do all the things of changing the currency to remove the anruta part of it, so people can remain honest. So Satyameva Jayate na anrutam. What is victorious is truth and na anrutam, and not the falsehood. That not the falsehood is actually very important. That if little bit of mithyachar we engage in, the gateway, the path to this Atma gets closed. Little bit of dambhachar, little bit of anrutachar, little bit of this falsehood, when it creeps in, it destroys us. And that is why over here Satya ki Mahima is very beautifully talked about over here. Satyena pantha vitataha devayanaha. Why Nandrutam? That is talked about in the next line. The reason is because Satyena, with Satya, panthaha vitate devayanaha. Devayanaha pantha satyena vitataha. The path to the devatas, the path to the absolute truth lies on the path of Satya. It is not on Anruta. That is why the Anruta is talked about over here. Satyameva jayate na Anrutam. Satyameva jayati na Anrutam. So this Satya is very, very important. Satya at the level of thought, Satya at the level of word, Satya at the level of deed. And we must observe ourselves that where am I erring? If I said that I will be there and if I don't show up, then it is not right. I made somebody else wait. I told somebody I'll be there at 5 and I nicely show up at 6. Then we are doing injustice to the chronological time event, because the chronological time event depends upon the time. And the psychological time is also disturbed. The psychological time gets elongated, meaning the jiva has to pay for it. So the internal time space gets disturbed and the outside time space gets disturbed. And without time and space, there cannot be projection. So Kal, Niyamata is very important. That's why our Gurudev was so precise. 1 minute after, he will not start. 1 minute after, on the hour, he will not continue. He said, my time was, I promised people 1 hour yajna, 1 hour is what they will get. They will not get 1 hour, 5 minutes. I have no right to take their 5 minutes extra away from them. This is how Gurudev thought. You know, he was so punctual, on time. This is to be learned. And he used to say this, Satyameva. The truth he saw, that we say mithya, there is no such world, there is all illusion, there is no time, there is no space. But yet we live in time and we live in space. So we have to respect space and we have to respect time. So the respect of time, space by Satyavachanam. So in that way, if we observe ourselves, how is our behavior? If I say I'll be there, am I there? Am I not there? If I say I will do this, do I do this? So like that, the Satyavachanam is very important, because this paves the path to the truth. And the minute we start living in the inside at the level of truth, it is so easy. It will just remove the confusions within. The ghor jungle within can be just removed by this amazing acts of truth, and that will wipe it out. Yena akramanti rishayah hi aptakamaha. The rishis, the great people, rishati janati iti rishi, the great rishis, they have also risen towards Atma only by this truth. Hi aptakamaha, and they have become self-fulfilled. The self-fulfillment comes only from the practices of these simple values as tapas, satyam, brahmacharya, all these things which are talked about very simple way the person rises. Jayati na anrutam na anrutavadi ityarthaha nahi satya anutayoho kevalyoho purushaha anashritayoho jaya parajayoho va sambhavati. We cannot conquer the higher with the lower values. We have to have the higher values to reach the higher values. Prasiddham loke satyavadi anrutavadi abhibhuyate na viparyayatah siddham satyasya balavat sadhanatvam. Satyam is such a great sadhana. Even in the Laukik world, if we find out that this person lies, nobody will trust that person. That's what Shankaracharya ji is saying, that prasiddham ihaloke, in this world, satyavadinaha anutavadi abhibhuyate. If somebody speaks truth, that person will be respected. If somebody does what they say, they will be respected. Then what to talk of satyam as a sadhana, as a spiritual practice. So these are all spiritual practice for Brahma Upasana. So Brahma Upasana, great, we think that there are some great spiritual practices which needs to be done. It's a very simple practice. We saw in the last mantra, na ativadi. If we just reduce our language to half, 90% of our problems are gone. And whatever we engage in, whatever we speak, we bring satya into it. Another 95% of our work is done. Even at work, we see all sorts of people engaging in all types of behavior. Even the companies engaging in anruta. What can I do? I work over there. I try to give my best. If chance is given to me to speak, I will let them know. But it is not up to me to be a maverick and bring about a change to a company which is some 2,000 employees strong and huge board of directors wanting this and that for P&L statement. They do all sorts of things. We know that. But whatever I do in my life, let me at least bring about some truth to it. And if given opportunity, yes, I think we should do this. These are my reasons for doing it. What can we do? If we put up a big fight, we will suffer then. So we have to also use some logic and understanding. So that is why over here it says it is seen in this world, Shankaracharya ji says, but you follow the path of Satya. Kimcha shastratah api avagamyate satyasya sadhana atishayatvam. Not just in this world, but he is saying kimcha shastratah, even in shastra, api avagamyate satyasya sadhana atishayatvam. Even in shastra it is said that satyam is very important and it should be practiced. Kimartham why should satya be followed? He says satyena yatha bhutavada vyavasthaya pantha devayana akhyah vitatah vistirna satyena pravruttah yena yathahi akramanti kramantah rishayah darshanavantah kuhaka maya शाठ्या अहंकार दंभ अनृत वर्जिताः हि आप्तकामाः विगत तृष्णाः सर्वतः यत्र यस्मिन् तत् परमार्थ तत्वं सत्यस्य उत्तम साधनस्य संबंधी साध्यं परमं प्रकृष्टं निधानं पुरुषार्थ रूपेण निधीयते इति निधानं वर्तते. Shankaracharya ji says, basically he repeats the whole mantra, one line answer he gives, that the reason why Satya has to be followed is because the entire path to this absolute truth, Devayanya Akhyah, known as the absolute truth, Vitataha, Vistirna, Satyena, Pravruttaha, it is spread by this. The whole path is smeared with truth, so we have to walk on this truth. Akramanti, very well they conquer the lower and they conquer this path of Satya with Satya. These great rishis, Rashayaha, Darshanavantaha, the ones who are the seer of the truth, Kuhaka Maya, Shatya, Ahankar, Damba, Anruta Varjitaha. And who is the Rishi? The Rishi is the one who has conquered, given up the Maya. What is Maya? Mithya. What is Mithya? Untruth. So they've given up this untruth, they've given up this Damba, pride, arrogance, Anruta Varjitaha, devoid of untruth, Ahankara, given up the Ahankar, Hi Aptakamaha, Vigata Trushnaha, the ones who have no desires. See, if we walk this path of Satya, that also removes all our desires. If we remain on this path of truth, that itself gives haircut to our vasanas, our desires. That is the glory of walking the path of ahimsa, satya, brahmacharya. That's why they become the yama and niyamas. So akramanti kramantah rushayah darshanavantah dev aptakama sarvatah yatra yasmin tat paramartha tattvam, those who are the seers of the absolute truth, satyah uttama sadhanasya sambandhi sadhyam, they are the ones who, uniting with the absolute by this path of sadhana of absolute truth itself, which is truth, satyam, prakrushtam, paramam prakrushtam, this absolute which is immaculately pure. Nidhanam Purushartha Rupena. It is the Purusha Arthena Labhyate. With great effort and practice, it is attained. So it is known as this great Nidhanam Purushartha Rupena Nidhiyate iti Nidhanam. With great effort, this self within is known. Tatra chayena pantha kramanti saha satyena vitate iti purvena sambandha. This person conquers, attains the self by the truth alone, and the truth itself is the relative self, the manifestation of the absolute itself is this reality, and in this time space everything is recognized by truth and truth alone. And if I practice this satya vachana, satya karma, satya nishtha, at thought, word and deed, if truth remains, he is saying one will reach. Kim chatat kim dharmakam chatad uchyate. What is this nature of satya? What is the dharma of the satya? What is the nature of the satya? So the next mantra is nothing but the truth talked about, this absolute truth which is referred to Satyam, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. It is also known as truth. So what is this? Bruhaccha tad divyamachintya rupam. Sukshma chatat sukshmataram vibhati. Durat sudure tadihantike cha. Pasyatsvihaiva nihitam guhayam. Bruhaccha tad divyamachintya rupam. Sukshma chatat sukshmataram vibhati. Durat sudure tadihantike cha. Pasyatsvihaiva nihitam guhayam. So a beautiful mantra which talks about this absolute truth. What is this absolute truth? What is this Brahman? Again, this Brahman is Tad Bruhaccha Divyam Achintya Rupam. What is this Satya? Satya is the path, Satya is the goal. Satya, the path, is truthfulness. What is indicated by truthfulness? Satyameva Jayate. What is that Satyameva Jayate? What is the victorious self? Bruhaccha, that which is the big. That is it. Bruhaccha, tat divyam, and it is self-luminous. This self, divyam, effulgent, divine, is, Gurudev says that, achintya rupam, and it cannot be thought of, meaning it cannot be objectified. That is what is meant. That achintya rupam, the mind and the intellect cannot quantify it, cannot describe it, cannot verbalize it. That is called achintya rupam. Mind and intellect goes over there and it becomes that. It is incapable of producing any language because it is beyond the words, beyond the realm of speech. But it knows at the same time, because it is the very Atma of Buddhi. It is the very source of it. So when it sees its source, the Buddhi becomes silent. Up to now it has known everything other than itself. Today the first time Buddhi knows itself. How is it going to talk about itself? It sees its own glory. Up to today, meaning up to the point of realization, Buddhi has objectified everything, including the spiritual path. To reach it, it has objectified the learning of Shastra. Because to even stay on that path, I have to know the path. What is the path? Something other than me. What is that other than me? Which is described in the Shastra. What is described in the Shastra? Achintya rupam. Are? But I have to tachintaniyacha. But you have to think about it. And what is it that you have to think about? It is bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest. Sukshmat sukshmataram vibhati. It is smaller than the smallest. The Buddhi, Anu, Paramanu, subatomic particles, even going beyond that, it is. Right now in physics they talk about the string theory. It is a concept, an idea, but it is so subtle to even understand that, and it is subtler than that. It is here, yet it is everywhere at the same time. Bruhat. So sukshmat sukshmataram, because the first word said it is bigger than biggest. It is the big. Ananta koti brahmand, not just one Milky Way, billions of such galaxies all roaming around, bigger than the biggest, and at the same time smaller than the smallest. Now how is the Buddhi supposed to know this? Durat sudure tad iha antikecha. It is farther than the farthest. 93 billion light years is a visible galaxy according to physics, and it is ever expanding. By the time we've understood something which is 93 billion light years, it has gone even further out, and such concepts are even difficult to understand. But durat sudure, by the time that light comes over here and the Hubble sees it, that star is long gone. It is mind-boggling if we try to understand. So it is farther than the farthest. We don't know what farther is. Tad iha antike. And yet it is right here. Right here it is. It is awareness. It is presence. Pashyati. Ihaiva nihitam guhayam. Where is it known? It is known ihaiva, right here. Where? Buddho guhayam, in the very cave of the intellect. And that is all. This is called Satyam. This is the absolute truth. So this consciousness, this is for nididhyasan, for continuously recalling. We have to dwell in it. When the mind and the intellect becomes somewhat still, when we've taken it away from this worldly agitations, and even for few minutes the mind becomes still, experience the stillness, the silence. Again, lack of words, I'm saying experience it. But there's no such thing as experience of stillness. But yet, it is to be known. It is to be known, nihitam guhayam, within the space of our own self. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.